when bald and bankrupt, that restless traveler who made his name by diving into the overlooked corners of the post-Soviet world opened himself up to questions about music. The answers he gave offered much more than just a playlist.
Come on, we don't get to Oasis yet. Let's say, what's your favourite Russian song? Oh, favourite Russian song? Oh, I have a lot of favourite Russian songs. It would probably be something by Kino or Mumi Troll would be my favourite Russian song. Or, does anyone know that one? Oh, American Boy. Google American Boy, I think it's called. Yeah, American Boy, da 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 da, American Boy, da 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 da. Yeah, something like that. It's about, basically, it's Russian girl singing about getting herself an American boy and going to America. So, yeah, that's what that was about. Right then. Anyway, thanks for helping me through, Mr. Bald. Not at all. Anything by Pugacheva. Yeah, which one do you like by Pugacheva? Million, Alich Ros. Anyway, next tune. Someone said, let's have Kinks. Waterloo Sunset. Let's have a little bit of it. Come on, let's do it. I fought the law and the law won. Oh, good one. But was that wasn't 60s, was it? That was the Clash were what? The Clash were late 70s, were they? Early 80s, 70s. Who's your favourite rapper? Okay. I don't know any rappers apart from Eminem. I'm really not into rap at all. I don't get it. I just don't get why, I want to listen to some dude telling me how he flies on private jets and, how he's like banging all the chicks and he's got millions and I'm nothing. It's like, where's the pleasure listening to that? Do you know what I mean? Like some dude just telling me how, I can't compete with him. It's like, nah, you're okay. So, okay, give me Shelter. Now there's one. Okay, go on then. Choose another song then. Hey, did we get to the bottom of it? Beatles or Rolling Stones? How did you find Belarusian football? It's okay. Love these drunken streams. I'm not drunk. I'm not going to... Oh, Kinks, Waterloo Sunset. Ah, you legend. You legend. Oh, excuse me. God, the vodka's gone through me already. I like the Stones too. What's your favourite Stones album? There's a question. What's your favourite Stones album? It's not just about cars, planes, cash. Well, tell me like what else is about. It's about women, it's about planes, it's about cash. Or like saying how tough they had it on the streets growing up. I don't know rap music really. So, the only rap I know is, what was that? Who was that first one they did? I mean, Blondie. Didn't Blondie do the first rap one? That cheesy rap she threw into one of her songs. Knobs out. Put your knobs back in. No knobs out tonight. Don't be childish. I've told you already. If anyone gets their knobs out, that's it. I'm closing the stream down. You absolute heathens. What's wrong with you? Beatles. I mean, crikey. Has there ever been a better band than the Beatles? A better pop band? I think when it comes to like the Beatles or the Stones debate, I think the Beatles are the best pop band and the Rolling Stones are the best rock and roll band. But that's just my take. Cheers. Everyone knobs out. Listen, don't be childish. This time, I'm going to be sensible. There's going to be no knobs getting out, okay? I'm just going to, take it slowly with the vodka. Just have a few little shots. Listen to some tunes. Go to bed. Not throw up on the toilet like last time. So anyone who says, get your knobs out, just behave yourself.
They opened a window onto his relationship with Russia, with England, with the blurred global currents of hip-hop, and with the lived reality of someone who has moved across borders and tried to understand people through their songs. What stood out most was not an attempt to be encyclopedic or to display vast knowledge of every genre, but rather the immediacy of taste. The way he spoke of Russian classics, the affection with which he recalled English giants, the skepticism and distance he expressed toward much of contemporary rap. Taste becomes a diary in these moments, a record of what resonated, what never connected, what felt human, and what felt alien. And from that diary, a larger story of culture begins to unfold. When he spoke of Russian music, he did so with the affection of someone who has lived in that world rather than merely studied it. Russian songs are not abstract artifacts to him. They are the soundtrack to years of wandering through provincial towns, evenings drinking vodka with strangers who became friends, taxi rides across decaying industrial landscapes, nights spent in apartments where hospitality was offered with sincerity and the radio played in the background. To name bands like Kino or Mumi Troll is not just to list artists, but to evoke an entire atmosphere. The melancholic cool of Soviet rock, the strange humor and poetic distance of later groups, the way Russian music has often carried both despair and defiance in the same melody. A group like Kino is not just music in Russia. It is a cultural emblem, the sound of an entire generation who sought meaning beyond the grayness of Soviet stagnation. Mumi Troll, with its eccentric style, represents another layer of Russian self-expression, whimsical but still infused with that Slavic sense of longing. When Bald recalls these songs, he is not just giving a personal favorite, but signaling the extent to which Russia lives within him. He is not a tourist casually browsing playlists, but someone who allowed the weight of Russian cultural history to seep into his bones. It is telling, too, that he mentions lighter, more pop-oriented songs like the famous American Boy, a track that may seem kitschy, but carries an enormous cultural charge in its own way. To Russians in the 1990s, when the Soviet collapse was still raw, and the West appeared as both savior and mirage, such a song captured the longing for escape, the fantasy of love with a foreigner, the hope of leaving behind the chaos at home. To recall that track is to recall the hunger for America, the way Russia dreamed outward even as it stumbled inward. And Bald's awareness of it signals again that he has listened deeply, not just to the high canon of Russian rock, but to the popular hits that defined ordinary lives. His musical knowledge is not academic but lived, which is why it resonates. Then there's the English side, which of course is his own inheritance. To speak of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Clash, the Kinks, is to walk through the backbone of British popular music. Yet the way he frames it is not in terms of textbook history, but in terms of personal feeling. He speaks as someone who grew up surrounded by this music, for whom it was not ancient but living. The Beatles, for him, embody the apex of pop, the Stones, the true essence of rock and roll. The Kinks capture that peculiarly English mix of wit, melancholy, and suburban poetry. The Clash represent rebellion, politics, raw urgency. Each band carries a piece of England's cultural DNA, and to recall them in conversation is to admit that one never escapes their gravity. Even for a man who built his fame wandering abandoned Soviet towns, the English soundscape still forms the baseline of taste. You cannot outgrow where you come from, you can only add to it. What emerges here is the tension of being between worlds. On the one hand, he is at home in Russia, familiar with its bands, fond of its pop anthems. On the other hand, his formative references are still those of an Englishman, the giants who shaped global music from London and Liverpool. He stands at a cultural crossroads, and his taste reflects that dual identity. In a way, this is what made his YouTube channel so compelling. He was always an outsider, but never an alien. He could be in Belarus or Kazakhstan, but he carried with him both a deep love for those places and the grounding of English culture. His playlists mirror his travels, Russia in one ear, England in the other, and the rest of the world always hovering nearby. When it comes to hip-hop, however, his relationship shifts dramatically. Here the tone is skeptical, distant, even dismissive. He admits he only really knows Eminem, that rap in general never resonated with him, that he cannot find pleasure in songs where someone boasts about private jets, endless women, and piles of money. For him, this music is alienating. It doesn't connect to his life, it doesn't offer insight, it only widens the gap between performer and listener. Where Russian rock spoke of longing and survival, where British bands sang of rebellion and poetry, rap to him sounds like arrogance, like exclusion, like noise about things he cannot and does not wish to aspire to. It is a striking admission, especially in an era when hip-hop is arguably the dominant global genre, shaping culture everywhere from Los Angeles to Lagos to Moscow. For Bald, though, it remains something he cannot enter. He acknowledges Blondie's early flirtations with rap, the novelty of it as it emerged, but he never found himself pulled into its orbit. This disconnection tells us as much about him as his love of Kino or the Beatles. It speaks to generational divides, to cultural differences, to the way certain genres resonate with some and leave others unmoved. Hip-hop was born out of specific conditions in Black America, out of poverty, violence, creativity, and survival. It carried stories that were not his, that did not match his life. And as hip-hop globalized, many of its mainstream forms became vehicles for bragging, for luxury, for excess. For someone like Bald, who finds beauty in Soviet ruins and prefers vodka-fueled nights in provincial apartments, such music feels like the opposite of everything he values. He is drawn to rawness, to imperfection, to the human and the broken. Rap, at least in the versions he encountered, felt polished, self-congratulatory, and alien. His dismissal of it is therefore not just ignorance, but a reflection of taste rooted in his worldview. What is fascinating, however, is that his dismissal itself becomes a cultural statement. To not connect with rap is also to place oneself against the grain of modern culture. Is to admit that you belong to another lineage, one where guitars still matter, where bands and melodies still define the emotional register. His taste then becomes a kind of resistance, not because he seeks to oppose hip-hop, but because he remains faithful to the sounds that shaped him.